It is time for me to put my money where my mouth is. I'm in 8 Dynasty leagues right now, currently drafting a 9th, which is my first Devy league, but I figured you guys might want to know how my rookie drafts went, where I spent my picks, how the draft boards looked, all the trades that I made throughout the rookie draft. A lot of cool nuggets, a lot of value talk, a lot of strategy talk in this video, so make sure you stick around all the way to the end of this video, and if you want to support us in any way, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Any comment will do, really helps us out in the YouTube algorithm, but let's get right into it. All right, so we're now into the video. If you guys skip the intro, every single league that I'm in, there's 8 teams I'm going to break down in this video. Every single league is a 12-team Superflex Dynasty league. I'll outline any differences in scoring formats. Some are tight end premium, some are 6-point per passing touchdown, that kind of thing. But the first team that we're going to break down is our No Flockin League, which we started up recently when we launched our new site, flockfantasy.com. Of course, sign up there using promo code FSE for 30% off plus a 2-day free trial. PPR 6-point per passing touchdown, half tight end premium league. You guys can see kind of the shell of the team, including the rookies that I drafted. I'm looking to go towards more of a rebuild, more of like a 1-year punt type of strategy. So keep that in mind when it comes to the actual rookie draft itself. And this was the draft board. You guys can see most of my leagues, I would say there wasn't really any surprises in the first round, or at least in the top like 9 overall picks. They pretty much went chalk for the most part. I've highlighted every pick that I made in this draft. The first pick being Bryce Young. During the startup, I actually traded up to secure, a kicker, which of course was a rookie pick at the time, which was the 102. I traded up into like the mid-second round after I got Josh Allen at the 101. So Bryce Young was my my second quarterback there. Then after I got my top 2 quarterbacks in the startup draft, I wanted to secure some young wide receivers, so I grabbed some rookie picks there as well. 107 and 108 ended up materializing into Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston. You love to see that. Those 2 guys should be staples of my team long term, hopefully. And then I didn't pick for a little bit of time. My only share of Jonathan Mingo came in this league. At the 211, he fell to me, which surprisingly was the lowest by far, I think, that I saw him go in most of my rookie drafts. And most of my rookie drafts, I think he ended up going, anywhere from like the 112 to like the 204 type of area. So I was fine taking a Jonathan Mingo share at that point in time, even though I'm not super, super high on Jonathan Mingo. I think 211 was a decent price for the 39th overall pick in the draft. At 212, I grabbed Chase Brown. Really loved his profile. Really loved the landing spot there for the Cincinnati Bengals. Luke Schoonmaker in a tight end premium league, 2nd round draft capital to the Dallas Cowboys, who turned Dalton Schultz into an extremely productive tight end for Dynasty and for redraft. I thought that was a good value. And then 401, as I talked about throughout the Sleepers video and some of the other videos I did, Sean Tucker needed to be a 4th round pick for me to take a shot on him. He was barely a 4th round pick here, but I do like that value there. When the rookie draft was over, I actually made a trade to offload some of my win now contending pieces that I got good value on during the startup. So like I said, the strategy for this league when I drafted it, earlier this offseason was to draft a 1-year punt, a productive struggle. But I got good value on Dameon Pierce during the startup. So I grabbed him at some point during like the 7th round or something like that. And I ended up trading him plus Sam Howell and Tyler Scott, who I think I ended up picking up as a UDFA, for CJ Stroud. So I thought this was great value. Sir King Jared actually sent this one right into my inbox, and I thought it was too good a value to pass up, especially in my situation, knowing that I have Josh Allen and Bryce Young and no real quarterback 3 behind them. I guess I have Mac Jones and Sam Howell at the time, but having CJ Stroud now as my stable quarterback 3, another young piece to add to my rebuild. I really liked what I came away with in this rookie draft. Again, I'm not a huge Jonathan Mingo guy, so that one, doesn't feel the greatest, but I think if you're going to differentiate, it's good to do it at a value. So moving on to the next league here, which was my BuschLeague Dynasty Best Ball League. We started this last year. In the startup, I did a full, 1-year productive struggle, 1-year punt as well. It is a best ball scoring format, so keep that in mind. PPR, 6-point per passing touchdown. This team is probably looking like one of my better teams, I would say, across my Dynasty portfolio. As you guys can see, the draft board right there, it was only a 3-round rookie draft, and the reason was because it is a best ball format, so you don't do a traditional 4-round rookie draft, and I'll walk you through some of my picks here. So at 103, I grabbed Anthony Richardson because I made a trade at 102. So initially, I held 102 and 103, and you guys can see the absolute blockbuster trade that I ended up making. So if you look at my roster, you can see that I have Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson as my top 2 quarterbacks entering the rookie draft. I also held 102 and 103, which you assume would be Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson based on my rankings. So knowing that I was going to have just a surplus of quarterback equity, I said, hey, feel free to send offers for 102, for 103, or for either of my quarterbacks, because I don't need 4 stud quarterbacks on my team. So I believe it was Nate in this league. He sent me an offer that I couldn't refuse. I thought this was a great offer. Bryce Young, I was giving up at 102, 111, which I also held, 212, which I also held, and Calvin Ridley, who didn't really fit my team construction because he's more of like a win now type of receiver. In return, I think I got exactly what I was looking for, which was more receiver depth, because I only really had Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf at the time, although I did hold some other draft picks to potentially add some more receivers. But getting Chris Olave added to this team for a quarterback that I didn't really need. Obviously, with 103, I still held to grab Anthony Richardson. And then I also get 108 in this deal, which was another receiver that I was able to add to this team with Quentin Johnston. And then I also net a 208 to 212 move up. So I get Roschon instead of Jalen Hyatt. And then I net a first rounder in next year's class, which Nate has a good team. So it'll probably be a mid to late first potentially. But I noticed when I was looking at his roster, and if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm evaluating your roster right now, Nate. I noticed that his roster was a little shallow. So if he suffers some bad injuries, that pick could end up being earlier than I expected. So I also then grabbed 210 Sam Laporta. I already had a pretty decent tight end core with Pat Freiermuth as my main guy there, but I think Sam Laporta also a pretty good value at 210. So I like that pick there. And then Cedric Tillman, who I grab at 302, which I grab a lot of, spoiler alert, in a lot of my rookie drafts. I got a lot of Cedric Tillman in my drafts. And then at UDFA, because there was a 3-round rookie draft, there was a lot of UDFAs available, and I spent my fab basically to get Trey Palmer, to get Deuce Vaughn, to get Lou Nichols, Charlie Jones, A.T. Perry, Tyler Scott, and Xavier Hutchinson. So looking at the final roster of this team, I think it's in really, really good shape. If I'm being honest, I got Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, and Deshaun Watson as a stable 3-stack of quarterbacks that nobody's really touching in this league. They're not going to really help me this year, which is good because I still have 3 first-rounders and 2 seconds next year to be able to build out this thing. I got a very young, very good wide receiver core with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Quentin Johnston, Cedric Tillman, and Rashad Bateman for some upside there, Nico Collins as well. Very barren at running back, Rashad White, Roschon Johnson, Freiermuth, and Laporta should be great for me long-term at tight end. Very happy with this roster. Very happy with how it's turned out. This one's a house money team, I would say. Probably not going to look to compete this year, given my running back situation, given that Kyler Murray's, coming off of an ACL tear, Anthony Richardson's in his rookie year. I'll probably wait until 2024 to really, really make this thing a contender. Maybe add some running backs at that point in time. Of course, I have 3 ones next year, and I don't need a quarterback. So if I end up having a really high pick, I could grab a Raheem Sanders, a Marvin Harrison, somebody like that to add to this roster. So looking good there. Can't Wait, which is the next team that I have here. This team was drafted mid-season this past year. The reason it's called Can't Wait is because we couldn't wait until the Dynasty offseason to draft the team. Half PPR, 4 point per passing touchdown, half point tight end premium is the scoring format in this league. Because we were drafting this team mid-season, and I always, you guys have seen so far, my strategy is typically to punt out of the startup by 1 year and, collect assets, that kind of thing. I thought because we were drafting mid-season, it was even more of an applicable strategy, knowing that there was players that were injured, right? Jamison Williams was, coming off of an injury. Kyle Pitts was injured. Javonte Williams was injured. Some of the guys that I drafted for this team were injured players that were going to accumulate in value, in my opinion. So I grabbed a lot of those guys in the startup, and I really, really love how this team has turned out. You guys can see what the draft board looked like. I ended up grabbing Bryce Young there at the 102. Then at 107 and 108, I ended up securing those picks in trade. So 107, I grabbed Jordan Addison. 108, I grabbed Quentin Johnston. And this is basically how I got there. So as you guys can see, right before the rookie draft, right before the NFL draft on April 23rd, I traded away Mac Jones, Javonte Williams, and Malik Willis in exchange for a 110 pick, which ended up being Dalton Kincaid, a 2024 first, which in my opinion will be early to mid based on the guy who traded for this package, because he traded for a guy coming off an ACL tear. He traded for Mac Jones, who's not really a serviceable quarterback, and Mac Jones will be his QB2, I believe, entering this year. So I think the guy that made this trade is over valuing his own team, and I think his team is a little ways away still. So I think that first will end up being, early to mid. So definitely love that trade for me. I mean, you offload a guy coming off of an ACL tear and a middling quarterback and pretty much nothing in Malik Willis, and you end up with 2 first-round picks out of it. I think you did a great job. And then Dalton Kincaid, I ended up trading up from. So at 110, I got that 110 pick with Dalton Kincaid. I didn't end up selecting Dalton Kincaid. I traded up from that 110 pick, give up the 206 as well to go up and get Quentin Johnston at 108 because I needed wide receiver depth. I needed wide receiver talent on this team. So really like that move for QJ. And then also, I've talked about it in yesterday's video, I believe, that I'm not very high on Jameson Williams, and I believed I outlined this trade in that video as well. I offload Jameson Williams and all the risk that he's coming with, and CJ Stroud at 104, who I didn't really need given that I already had Patrick Mahomes and Bryce Young, although, I still could have added another quarterback to this team. Instead of those two guys, I get Jordan Addison at 107, which I think was better suited for my roster. And I also net another early to mid first next year. So it looks like my quarterback 3 is probably going to come in 2024, given that I have 4 first rounders in that class. One of them or multiple of them potentially being early to mid. Hopefully I can come away with Caleb Williams as my other quarterback to go along with Bryce Young and Patrick Mahomes and this wide receiver core that I've built out that's looking very, very fierce right now. Running back core is pretty barren, but there's upside there mid-season to be able to offload an A.J. Dillon, a Rashad Penny, and Elijah Mitchell, some of these guys. And of course, in a tight end premium, having Kyle Pitts, Tucker Kraft, and Darnell Washington is a pretty solid core there. At 202, I think this was probably one of the best values I got of any of my rookie drafts. Getting Zach Charbonnet to fall to me at 202 was definitely an awesome, awesome move for my team, given that, Charbonnet maybe not the most valuable early on in his rookie contract, but if they don't re-sign Kenneth Walker or whatever the case is, by the time I'm ready to compete, Zach Charbonnet really might be an awesome piece for that team. And then, like I said, it was a tight end premium league, and I think 310 Tucker Kraft, 402 Darnell Washington was just too good of value to pass for me, even though I already have Kyle Pitts and I probably didn't need a tight end at that point. This is another one-year punt team, like I said, that has some serious ammunition to compete. If my 0 RB guys can really hit this year and my young wide receivers maybe get out to a good start, I possibly could shop some of those 2024 first to become a competitive team as soon as this year. But usually my approach is that I want to be patient with these teams. Let this year be house money. Maybe I'm like the 6th best team in the league, but with a bright future. Spend those 2024 picks and be ready to dominate come 2024. So this team, really excited about how it's turning out. The next team that I'm going to get into is the Get Faded League, half PPR, 4 point per passing touchdown league, 0.5 tight end premium as well. This team is more in a competitive window, as you guys can see with Herbert, with Kirk Cousins there. Those are my lockdown quarterbacks. Bijan is my main running back, plus some 0 RB guys behind him. Wide receiver core is absolutely stocked to the brim. Amon-Ra, Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks, Mike Williams, Jahan Dotson, Elijah Moore, all those dudes. George Kittle is my main tight end. I only had 2 picks in this rookie draft, but they ended up being the first 2 picks because of some of the trades that I ended up making there. Bijan Robinson was my pick there at 101, Anthony Richardson at 102. Normally, I go with Bryce Young at 102 in most of my leagues, but as you'll see, I had a lot of exposure to Bryce Young, and given that I already had Justin Herbert, I already had Kirk Cousins on this team, I figured it was worthwhile to go for the upside swing of Anthony Richardson because I didn't really need him to compete right away. And then as you guys can see, some of the picks that I got, 101 being the biggest one. I made this trade back in February. I posted it on Twitter. A lot of you guys said that I took this guy to the woodshed. I gave away Jameson Williams, the 110 and the 203, which ended up becoming Zay Flowers and Jaden Reed. And of course, Jameson Williams hadn't been suspended at this point in time. And I ended up getting Bijan Robinson. I was almost willing to add in a 2024 first on top of this package to get Bijan, given where my team was at. And I think I really, really took this guy to the woodshed. So I love that trade. And then the other guys in the league, there's one really good team in this league. So just to give you guys some context, there's one really good team, and a lot of the other guys are now realizing that they need to rebuild. But I realized this about a year and a half ago. So I'm on the cusp of, or on the tail end of my rebuild, now ready to make a push because my team has been, building up assets. Obviously, you see how many receivers I got in last year's draft: Burks, London, Jameson Williams, Jahan Dotson, all those guys. So some of the guys in my league were selling competitive pieces for cheap. And I would say this definitely qualifies. In a tight end premium league, I got George Kittle for Sam Howell, Terrace Marshall, the 410, which became Chris Rodriguez, and the 212, which became Rashee Rice. I thought that was a great move for me to push my chips in a little bit. And then this next move was just me selling a bunch of junk for some solid pieces, right? 210, Cedric Tillman. I like Cedric Tillman, but I think he's the only worthwhile asset in this deal. Michael Wilson, Parker Washington, Xavier Hutchinson, and Luke Schoonmaker. I got Mike Williams, Alexander Madison, and A.J. Dillon out of that. I think that was a great move on my part as well. So even though I just had 2 picks in this rookie draft, I still think I got exactly what I needed, which was a young quarterback and a stud running back to help me, build this thing out. Normally, like I said, I would have taken Bryce Young at 102, but the fact that I'm in a competitive window with the team that I already have, plus I already have a lot of shares of Bryce Young and 2 stable quarterbacks this year, felt good to take the swing on Anthony Richardson. I definitely need more running back talent on this team, given that it's Bijan Robinson and a bunch of 0 RB guys. but it's still May, right? I think a lot of people get themselves into the trap of thinking, oh, I need to fill up my RB2 slot. Let me just sell whatever I can for a running back too. I'm going to be patient with this. The type of running back that I'm going to go after is going to be like a Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins, somebody in that range of the running back rankings. And I think I could sell my 2024 first, but who knows, man? I still have Treylon Burks, who I'm looking to sell. I could use him in a trade package to get a running back as well, because I have so much wide receiver depth, and I'm honestly not that high on Treylon Burks, as you guys would have seen in yesterday's video. So I got a lot of work to do with this team to get it to the competitive, superstar team that I think it can be, but it's in a really good spot right now. So the next league that I'm in is not in such a good spot, which is the too lazy to set lineups league. Of course, this is a best ball league, hence why it's called too lazy to set lineups. PPR league, 4-point per passing touchdown. This is probably my worst team, I would say, the one that's in the worst situation. I got sniped left and right out of the startup last year, and I ended up deciding, you know what, screw it. I'm going to sell off all my assets. I'm punting for 2024, for 2025. So you guys can see I have a lot of picks in 2024, a couple seconds, couple threes, and a couple fours there. I have 3 ones in 2025 and an extra second there as well. I ended up having the 101 this year. I tried like hell to sell Bijan Robinson is in this league. I just couldn't do it. Nobody wanted him. I went to the 102 owner there with Andrew. He wanted to take a quarterback because his team's in rough spot as well. I went to Fletsky, tried to get Bryce Young or the 103 pick. Didn't work out. I was trying like hell to get off of Bijan Robinson. It didn't work. So I just picked Bijan Robinson. You just pick the guy that you need to pick, and hopefully I can sell him at a later point in time. I did actually make a trade during the rookie draft to secure another quarterback, where I secured 2 quarterbacks. Actually, I trade away Michael Mayer, which was the 201, a late 2024 first. So not my own 2024 first. I believe it's Danny's, and Danny's competing in this league, and a 2024 second as well. And in return, I get the 104 in this class, which ended up being CJ Stroud, obviously, because I needed a quarterback. And then Brock Purdy as well. I think Brock Purdy, give or take, is probably worth that 2024 second. So the way I look at this trade is I basically traded a projected late first next year and the 201 Michael Mayer for a solid young quarterback in CJ Stroud. So I really like that move. I think that was benefiting my team for sure. So I have Mahomes and CJ Stroud, Mac Jones and Sam Howell to build around at the quarterback position. Nice young core there. But the rest of the roster is looking in bad shape, right? I have no receiver talent, pretty much none, and no real tight end talent, some running backs, but I'm looking to sell off Dobbins. I'm looking to sell off Bijan Robinson potentially. So hopefully I can stack up some more picks in 2024 and in 2025 to help further this rebuild. At 311, I took Tucker Kraft. Again, I just thought it was a good value. 401, I took Sean Tucker as well. This team is in rough shape. It's going to need some work for sure, but I'm going to keep chugging along. Hopefully I can get somebody to bite on some of my running back talent. I can continue to collect picks in 2024 and in 2025. So let's move on to the next team here, which is the Tone Setter Truthers League, a league where I am competing in. I came in third last year, I believe. I went 13-1 in the regular season, and I was bounced in the first round after my playoff bye, which was absolutely brutal considering my team is absolutely loaded with talent. PPR, half tight end premium, Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Sam Howell, little weak at quarterback, admittedly. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Ramondre Stevenson, Jamal Williams, Elijah Mitchell at running back, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown, Jahan Dotson, pretty strong there at wide receiver. George Kittle is my main tight end. I had the 212 and the 410 this year in the rookie draft. You guys can see the draft board again. Nothing too surprising outside of maybe Zay Flowers falling to 111. I think that was the only real surprise of this rookie draft. I only had the 212 in this draft. I took Marvin Mims with that pick. And then I also had the 410, which was attributed to Chris Rodriguez. And then I picked up some other guys on undrafted free agency like Eric Gray and Lou Nichols and stuff like that. This team definitely needs another quarterback to compete, right? I think I need to go out and trade for a Geno Smith, trade for a Kirk Cousins, trade for Jared Goff, somebody like that. I've been trying to do it. And this league is a little bit difficult to do that because the owners of those players are also in competitive windows. So for me, I'm probably just going to try and be patient, see what happens with Brock Purdy, see what happens with Sam Howell, and I'm not going to force things. Maybe one of those teams that has Geno Smith or Jared Goff mid-season, they're not competing, their team gets injured or something like that, and I can trade for those guys at a later point in time. But I am willing to sell my 2024 first, given that I expected to be late for one of those quarterbacks. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to strike. I did actually make a trade right before the NFL draft with AJ. He wanted some receiver depth. I was looking for some running back depth. He gives me Elijah Mitchell, which of course is the handcuff to my Christian McCaffrey. And then I gave him 311, which became Israel Abanikanda. He gives me 212, which became Marvin Mims. So I get a receiver depth piece, back, also a Broncos receiver, ironically, and I get a running back depth piece who also happens to be the handcuff for my RB1. So I like that trade. I ended up, I think, netting positive out of that, but this team definitely still needs another quarterback. That is what I will be doing going forward. And then let's close it out with the final two teams, I believe, here. This is the second to last team here, which is the FSE Listener League. Again, if too lazy to set lineups is my worst situation, I think this is probably my second worst situation of the leagues that I'm in. PPR, 4-point per passing touchdown. The past 2 years, I've been trying to win the championship, and I've come up short both years. I came in second 2 years ago, and last year I got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. So I decided to tear this team down and try and rebuild. It looks in pretty rough shape at the current point in time. I sold off Saquon Barkley. I sold off Alvin Kamara. I sold off my other quarterbacks. I had like Ryan Tannehill and some other like middling quarterback depth there. I am pretty strong at wide receiver still. And I'm probably looking to sell, Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, some of these more older wide receivers. I'm going to hold on to Zay Flowers, Deontay Johnson, Wandale, Jaden Reed, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, those guys. But I would like to get some value out of those wide receivers if I can. The only problem is, this is our audience, right? I'm sure some of you guys listening to this right now are in this league, and you understand it's difficult to get draft capital off of people because, this is our audience. You guys know draft capital is extremely valuable. So with this league, I'm trying to just net as many positive trades as I possibly can and come away with some good depth pieces. So in this draft, I ended up building out like a lot of depth. You can see at 109, I ended up getting Zay Flowers. And the reason I had 109 was because I traded Saquon Barkley away to Danny for 108, 304, and 301, which I thought was a pretty good return for a stud running back. I ended up getting Hyatt and Spears at 301 and 304. And then QJ at 108. But I ended up trading away Quentin Johnston shortly after for Zay Flowers and a 2024 second. So for me, I think Quentin Johnston is worth more than Zay Flowers. And I would say a 2024 second is about fair value. But given that I'm in a long-term rebuild, I'm looking to build out a long-term productive struggle. Getting that second round pick is really all that I cared about. And I actually did have Zay Flowers rated over Quentin Johnston pre-draft. So I think that was a pretty good process move to make there. And then also at 301, I didn't really need Tajay Spears. I'm not in a competitive window. I was offered a 2024 third and the 305 to move off of Tajay Spears. And I end up getting Cedric Tillman there, who I actually rank very similarly to Tajay Spears and fits my team a little bit better. So I think I've made some good trades in this league, but I do still have quite a bit of work to do when it comes to selling off Deebo, Kirk, Godwin, Leonard Fournette, some of the other guys that I have there. But I do have some building blocks like Justin Fields. Zay Flowers can be a building block. I have 2 firsts next year. I have a bunch of, extra mid-round picks next year as well. But I still do have some work to do. I'll probably be aiming to get some 2025 capital potentially out of Deebo and Kirk and Godwin, because I don't think anybody's going to give up 2024 capital, given that, a lot of the guys in this league know what the 2024 class is expected to be like and probably don't want to give those first round picks up. So the final team in this video is the Bitcoin League. PPR, 6-point per passing touchdown, 0.5 point per tight end premium. The pot is, I believe it's a $100 buy-in. It's all put in Bitcoin at the beginning of the season. And depending on how Bitcoin does, that's how big the pot is. So it's a pretty interesting twist on a Dynasty League there. And you guys can see the team here. I think this team is one of my favorites just because of the superstar caliber talent that I've been able to acquire for this team. It's lacking a lot of depth, which is the biggest problem with it right now. But I do love how, high level assets I've been able to kind of accumulate with this team. You can see the 4 stack of quarterbacks that I've built out. Javonte Williams is my main running back. Jefferson, Drake London, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, mainly at wide receiver. And then some, question marks at tight end. The way this draft board shook out, I thought I was going to be able to get a tight end at 202, potentially, Michael Mayer, maybe even a Sam Laporta. And I kind of just got screwed and sniped out of tight ends. So I ended up making some moves during the draft where at 108, I already have a couple shares of Quentin Johnston. I have some conviction that Addison will be the better player because I liked him a lot more pre-draft than Quentin Johnston. So what I ended up doing was trading up from my 108, giving up the 202 and moving up to 107 to get Jordan Addison, who I have like a tier above in my overall dynasty rankings than QJ. And I end up getting the 205. So I moved down 3 picks in the second round to move up 1 pick in the first round to get Jordan Addison instead of Quentin Johnston. I thought that was a pretty good trade. But the real crucial point that I want to hammer home here is what I ended up doing at 102 and 103. So you guys can see based on my roster that I already had Justin Herbert. I already had Deshaun Watson. And I had 102 and 103, which are Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson in my rankings. But instead of looking at my team, realizing I already had 2 stable quarterbacks, that I was going to take another quarterback at 102, some newer dynasty players may have been like, hey, I'm just going to take Jahmyr Gibbs at 103. I don't need another quarterback. I'm just going to pass on Anthony Richardson. I'm going to take JSN at 103, whatever player that you would covet at that point in time. But I didn't do that. I tried like hell to trade off of one of these picks. I was like, hey, give me your 106 and Jerry Jeudy for my 102. Like some of those trades I was firing out there to try and get more receivers, more depth on my team, and also then still get a high pick to take a JSN, take a Jahmyr Gibbs at 106. But none of those guys were biting in this league. So instead, I didn't, panic. I just took the best player on the board. Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson are the 102 and 103 for me in this rookie draft. I'm going to have opportunities to trade one of my 4 absolute stud quarterbacks, because I have 4 quarterbacks on my roster that all rank inside my top, 12 to 13 quarterbacks in Dynasty. I have opportunities to move off of Herbert if I want to, if I move off of Watson if I want to, Bryce Young if I want to, Anthony Richardson if I want to. I'm going to be looking for wide receiver talent in return, maybe draft capital as well. But I'm not going to rush it with this team, because I think this team could be really, really good if I can just continue to collect value, continue to build out this roster. All my superstar assets are not going anywhere. Justin Jefferson ain't slowing down anytime soon. Drake London is still 21 years old. He ain't slowing down anytime soon. So I have a lot of time with this team, and I still have all of my picks next year as well to be able to add running back talent if I need to. But my goal, at least for the time being, is to be able to sell one of these quarterbacks for a good package. And I might have to wait until their rookie seasons. Maybe when we see Anthony Richardson put up like a huge stat line, maybe it's like 100 yards rushing or something like that, and I can sell him high on the basis of that, and maybe I can get like Devontae Smith in a first-round pick for him or something like that. That's what I'm looking for, because I do need more receiver talent. I do need more opportunities to get running backs, whether it's draft capital or whatever. So even though I think you probably could look at this team and be very hasty with it and be like, oh, once I sell one of these quarterbacks, I can go after and buy a bunch of running backs, buy a tight end, whatever I need to do. I'm going to be really patient with this one. I took Zay Flowers there at 109. I get Kendre Miller there at 205, but I was really, really annoyed that I got sniped on Sam Laporta, because I figured, hey, at 202, it might be a little early for Sam Laporta. That's why I traded up for Jordan Addison. And I was like, hey, at 205, I'm still going to get him anyway. So I can net Jordan Addison and Sam Laporta for Quentin Johnston and Jonathan Mingo, which ended up being the pick at 202. Unfortunately, he gets sniped. I take Kendre Miller, but you know what? He's a fine running back, especially in the long term, given that my team is not really ready to compete yet. I think Kendre Miller can really help me out going forward. And then at 402, I end up getting at least one tight end to add to this core. 402, Tucker Kraft there and a tight end premium I thought was good value. And then 412, Trey Palmer. So that is how I spent all my rookie picks. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Did you enjoy this video, hearing the process behind a lot of my picks? As you can see, I have a vast portfolio of dynasty teams. Some of them are in great shape. Some of them were productive struggles. A couple of them were, contending type of rosters. So you got to hear pretty much everything under the sun as far as how I would approach a rookie draft given Team X's situation. And of course, if you have any questions relating to Dynasty Fantasy Football, leave them down below in the comments. If you want access to getting your team broken down in the way that I broke down my own teams here, of course, we have this series on our channel. Maybe you've heard of it, Dynasty Decisions. You can get access to Dynasty Decisions episodes by filling out the Google form link down below in the description. I will warn you that we only do them like once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever the case is. And we get a lot of submissions. So flockfantasy.com/FSE subscribers, people who use our promo code specifically, are how you skip the line for Dynasty Decisions episodes. So make sure if you want to get your team broken down right away, maybe you just had your rookie draft, maybe you haven't had your rookie draft yet, definitely sign up over on the site and you'll get first priority access if you are a mother flocker, and then priority access if you are a flocker subscriber as well. So if that interests you, check it out. Dynasty rankings, articles, all that good stuff. Trade value charts dropping this week, quarterback trade value chart. If you're ever curious about, oh, I have Lamar Jackson, what should I be looking to get for him in a trade? We'll have you covered on the site there with the quarterback trade value chart, and all the other positional ones will be dropping this week as well. So that's all what's going on at Flock Fantasy right now. Again, use the promo code FSE for 30% off, 2-day free trial when you sign up to check out everything on the site before you buy, and also 6 months for free if you sign up annually, and first priority on Dynasty Decisions for using our promo code specifically. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.